This short video clip is to focus on the persuasive essay and how to develop it from the ground up. This video should help you with some of the common problems that students encounter with persuasive essays. The top 3 problems that I see from students are problems with establishing a clear stand or claim, hence a thesis statement, problems with maintaining focus throughout the essay, and problems with organization or the order of ideas within the essay. Let's start first with the problem of establishing a clear stand or claim. This can be remedied by developing an effective thesis statement. In a persuasive essay, the thesis must accomplish the following tasks. First of all, it must establish a clear issue or topic for the essay, and this should be done in the first paragraph typically. Second, it should make a claim or take a stand on the issue. The stand is something that should be stated clearly and specifically. It must also use the correct tone to avoid offending readers, particularly those who might be on the fence in regards to the topic or issue. And ideally, the thesis statement should avoid first-person pronouns. Let's take a look at some sample thesis statements. Let's say we were looking at the issue or topic of violence on primetime television. Now obviously you could be either for or against that topic. If we were going to be against the idea of violence on primetime television, a good thesis might be something like this. Primetime television programs have too much violence. Likewise, we could also tackle a topic or issue of advertising on children's programs. And once again, you could be either for or against it. If we were against it, a thesis might be something like this. Programs aimed at children under the age of 5 should be free of advertising. Both of these sample thesis statements clearly state the topic, and they also clearly state the stand for the writer. Now I want you to practice developing the thesis statement. I'm going to give you an issue, a topic, and a stand for that issue and topic, and I'm going to have you develop a thesis statement. The issue or topic that you're going to deal with is voter registration identification cards, and you're going to be for the use of voter registration identification cards. At this point, what you're going to need to do is develop a working thesis statement for that topic and stand. Please note that the video is only going to go for a few more seconds before showing a possible answer, so I recommend that you pause the video at this point and resume it when you've developed your thesis. So then a possible thesis statement for this issue and topic of voter registration identification cards could be as follows. Voter registration identification cards should be implemented to ensure the integrity of our elections. Please note that the thesis has both a naming of the topic as well as an identification of the stand, what is arguing for or against. Let's try this now for another example. The issue or topic this time is for implementing a 10 p.m. curfew for minors. Again, you're only going to have a few seconds that the video will pause long enough for you to develop your thesis. So if you need additional time, I'd recommend that you pause the video and then hit resume when you're ready to go. For the second example, the thesis you developed for this issue, topic, and stand could be as follows. In order to protect our youth and prevent crime, Pennsylvania should mandate a statewide 10 p.m. curfew for minors. Now that you have a better understanding of developing thesis statements for the essay, let's talk about some other important ideas in developing the essay as you go forward. First and foremost is the idea that everything in the essay must focus on developing the claim or stand that you just established in the thesis statement. Second, you have to be careful not to argue against your claim or stand. Many writers accidentally or unintentionally bring up ideas or statements that go against their thesis statement, and in doing so they weaken their argument. Third, you should make sure you're using logic and reasoning to develop your stand. Everything that you say in your essay should be developing that stand, and it should be done logically or with reasons or statistics or something to back up what you're saying. You're not going to win anyone over by just stating your opinion. You need to explain why that opinion makes sense, and that's where logic and reasoning comes into play. And finally, it's very important in persuasive and argumentative writing to be mindful of your language choices to avoid tone issues. If you're insulting people or you're degrading their belief systems, you're not going to win anyone over to what you're trying to argue for. As we discussed the idea of developing your essay, it's also important to take a minute to talk about what you should include in the essay. And as we mentioned before, you're going to want to use logic and reasoning and evidence to support your stand. And this logic and evidence can include things such as examples and reasons. personal or hypothetical anecdotes or stories, statistics and data, and authority testimony, which is simply going to be your outside resources where you name expert testimony, name expert opinions on the ideas you're talking about. You should also consider the notion of naming and breaking down opposing arguments. Opposing arguments are obviously those that go against your own stand or argument. You should take into consideration the arguments of your opposition, and then you should break those opposing arguments down using evidence and reasoning. And what you're doing in the process is weakening the opposing argument and developing and strengthening your own. It's a really important note that if you do try to take on the idea of breaking down opposing arguments, that you actually take the step of breaking them down. One mistake I've seen students make repeatedly is the idea that they'll name an opposing argument in their essay, but then they never break it down. So it's almost as if they're developing the opposing argument and contradicting themselves. Now that you understand more about developing your thesis statement and also how to develop the essay, it's important that we take a third step and talk a little bit more about how to organize the essay and put it together. First of all, you're going to talk about your introduction paragraph, or paragraph 1. And like any other introduction for any other essay, you should be focusing on creating interest, developing background information, and trying to set the stage for the rest of the essay. Important in the persuasive, though, and what sets it apart, is the idea that your persuasive essay, your introductory paragraph, should at some point be naming the claim or stating the stand as part of the thesis statement. Remember, that's what's going to drive the rest of your essay. You should also then think about and put your body paragraphs in the middle of the essay, and the format there should be that each body paragraph should be developing a different idea, a different supporting reason, or perhaps a naming and breaking down an opposing argument. It's important though that each body paragraph is a separate idea, and that just goes back to the basics of paragraph writing. And then finally, as you get closer to the end of your essay and start to wrap it up, you're going to have a concluding paragraph. And like any other concluding paragraph, it's going to summarize key ideas, perhaps restate the claim developed in the thesis statement. And the important thing, I think, in a persuasive is to end strongly, maybe urging your readers to act in a certain way, to change their thinking about a certain topic, or maybe even explaining why inaction could lead to further problems. At this point, what we're going to do is the next element in the module is going to be a model essay that I'm going to read to you and help to examine in regards to the thesis statement, how it's developed, and how it's put together in terms of organization. So at this point, I hope you'll go to that section in the module and get started with that model essay.